Okay, so we're recording now. Hello, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, lovely to be here.
Please, could we start with a little bit about you and maybe a fun fact?
Okay, so my name is Bethany on Instagram, Karma and Kindness. And I would say, well, I'm 25 years old. And I would say the fun fact about me, which is also quite a main thing about my life and the shifts in my life, is that I lived in Vietnam for the past 3 years. And that is when everything in my life transformed. I was a kindergarten teacher there, so I was kind of living the dream, as some would say, but I wasn't actually that happy. And so I set off on a little journey of discovery.
You just made up a
And
word.
I made a word. And yeah, so 3 years in Vietnam pretty much transformed my life because I was thrown into a completely new culture. I had to adapt, build a new family circle, build new friends, new connections, everything. So I would say that's mostly about me.
Amazing, thank you. This is gonna be great because I feel like if you were on a spiritual journey from then, you have a lot to say. Okay, we will start the main soul search with, what does intuition mean to you?
So intuition to me, at the beginning, I wasn't too sure. I would always read about intuition and I was very much drawn to it. And I was always like, but what is it? And I realized that from a very young age, I'd been very in tune with my intuition, where I would either meet certain people and it would either get to a point where I would really be repelled by their energy to a point where I couldn't even get words out, or I would feel very strongly towards someone or something. Or I remember when I really started, I, Googled and really researched what intuition meant. And I finally found out, it's that gut feeling. And I was realizing that my whole life I'd been experiencing it. So it was things like when I arrived in Vietnam, I had no idea I had 200 pounds to my name. And in my gut, even though it all seemed so silly, it was like, you have to stay here. You have to stay here. And it's like that feeling we all get where you get this feeling that something is or isn't right. And then you go ahead and do it anyway. And then it's like, oh, wait, I knew that was a bad idea, or I knew that I should have done that. And it's just then, I think, once you've got that awareness of, okay, that's my intuition, then it becomes easier to suss out, oh, okay, instead of just, usually that first thought and that first feeling is what you need to go with. But so many of us then go too deep into it and think, is it what I need to do? And then we go with the other thing. And then we're like, oh, wait, I always knew. So tuning into that and knowing like how strong it feels to you is such a beautiful direction on which to take in terms of listening to your intuition.
Do you feel like it's trusting yourself more than, other people, their opinions, and even your thoughts? Like it comes apart from your thoughts as well?
So your thoughts, like usually with me, I'll get this gut feeling. So I'll get this either goose pimples, or I'll get kind of like, if it's a bad intuitive thing, I would get kind of like a sick feeling. And then your mind starts, or your ego starts, and it's like, but this, but that, but that. And it's just feeling into that, okay, how does my body feel about it, rather than creating a story in your mind, because your mind is giving you all these past experiences that might make this not a good one or whatever. And so, yeah, I would say it's more of a body feeling and just really tuning into, okay, what is the first thing I felt before my mind chirped up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Catching it.
Yeah.
In time. Amazing. So this might follow on actually, because at the moment I'm trying to work out the difference between the intuitive messages we're getting from our gut and the fear messages based on past experience. So what do you believe fear means?
Ooh, my favorite. Okay, so like I like to differentiate, like when I talk about fear, because this is everything I stand behind in my business as well. So I always stand behind making fear your friend, because as a society, as humans, we are taught that fear equals negative. And if something's scary, that we have to run as far away from it as possible. Now, if you go back to animalistic things, a deer will respond in fight or flight. They will see a car coming and the distance and they'll either freeze or they'll run. And that's the intuitive feeling that we get when we experience fear. We freeze, we feel anxiety, we get this, bodily experience, and then we run. But the thing is, with human beings, because we are so developed, we now can't differentiate what is actually real fear, where you're about to get run over by a car, for example, or fear in terms of, this is a little bit scary, but it's going to enable me to grow. And so it's differentiating, because we're so conditioned to be scared and have that fight or flight response with anything. Like, the door could slam there and I get scared, or somebody could call me up and say, I've got some news, and my whole body shuts down, even though I don't know if it could be the best news I've ever received. And then your mind then starts to create, let's go with that example. Somebody calls me right now and says, I've got some good news, or I've got some news. And I'm like, oh my God, like they're gonna tell me they don't want to be my friend anymore. They're gonna tell me that, this isn't gonna work, or that I can't fly here, and your mind is so good at creating a negative rather than a positive, because again, we're so conditioned to think of what could lack rather than, oh, my friend could be ringing me up to tell me that I've just got a new business partner, or I've just made £1 million, or, and we choose to think of that lack. So with me and fear now, when I experience fear, of course, if it's something physical where, you're walking on the edge of a cliff and it's scary and you've got to be careful, of course, fear, that's the real fear. But if it's something like, I work online, so if it's something like, for me, when I post about money, I get scared, very, very scared, because of reactions, because of people potentially thinking, wow, she's showing off. Who does she think she is? And I never intend to be seen that way. So I get that fear of, if I post this, will I be seen in the wrong light, or will my friends think negatively about me? And usually what I've come to know in the past year is that the more scared I am, the more response that's going to be positive. So I posted about my business last week and it terrified me to the point where it took me a whole day to post. And I posted it and I got over 100 messages. All supportive, not one negative.
Not one.
Not one.
That's incredible.
And then it's just keeping going through that contrast of, and I don't like to use the word negative either, because as soon as you allow that word into your reality, you're allowing it. So I like to use the word contrast instead of negativity, because it's up and down. Everything's always flowing. So if you use contrast, it's not negative, it's just a shift from the positive. And so I now have got used to the fact that when I feel that, ooh, do I want to do this, or it's scary, it's usually an element that is going to allow me to grow, to develop, and probably gain something positive. So yeah.
I couldn't have got a more incredible answer. I have no further questions for that part. Thank you so much for that. And I always think of you, actually, when I use the term negative, I think of you every time now. I've had contrast.
Oh, good.
I'm trying to change my vocab. And when it comes to saying, like, I should do this or I must do this, I don't say it anymore. I say I could do this. Maybe, or other words that aren't all these, contrasting words. But yeah, it's work in progress. Okay, so this is a bit of a vague question. I'm not sure how you're going to take this, but could you just tell us what it means when we say there's about energy or frequency or vibrations, and what does it mean to you?
So I would say that I would put them all on the same kind of wavelength. So you could be like, raise your vibration, raise your energy, raise your frequency. I think I would put them just all in the same basket. I use those words as the same thing. I think energy is very similar to how it ties in with intuition as well. And your energy is how you present yourself. So you could wake up and you could kind of feel low frequency, low energy, and you kind of don't really know what to do with yourself or why you're feeling this way, but you have a choice with that energy as well. And it's the same as like the way that you perceive other people's energy. It's all energy. This glass of water is energy. This chair I'm sat on is energy. We're all just made up of these particles that are just vibrating around. And that is why it would be silly not to open yourself up to the fact that we have got energy, and the way that we communicate and the way that we feel around certain people or certain experiences, it is all energy. And that's why we are drawn to certain things, because our energy or our frequency aligns with these things. So I would say your energy is just how you're feeling, how you present yourself. You can always feel, I could literally feel high vibe right now, and then in 30 minutes I could feel a lower vibe, or I could come into contact with somebody who, again, as an empath, me personally, my energy is very much affected on a daily basis, and I've had to really delve deep into protecting my own energy, because I used to be like allow others to penetrate my energy very, very deeply, where I went into depression, and I didn't know that that was actually because I was allowing so many external energies into my reality that I was allowing no space for my own. And I was pushing my own so far down that I wasn't able to grow. I wasn't able to even function. And so it's so important, if you are even listening to this and you're feeling like, oh, I kind of resonate with that, that you do some tools, do some meditations to protect your energy, because we all have an energy and we all need to put our own energy before anything else. And it might come across as selfish, but by doing so, you're opening yourself up to so many different beautiful things, and also the right relationships.
So how do you now implement this in your job? Because you must get a lot of messages every day and you have a big team of people. So how do you balance that with taking care of yourself?
Work in progress. So yeah, so I would say, especially now that I've been doing this a year and a half, at first I would give a lot of energy to connecting, and obviously I would reply to people straight away. And the way that I structure my business, I do connect very, very deeply. Like, one of the questions I ask people is, what are the things that make your soul shine? So that opens a portal that not many people ask that question to each other. You know, it's like that, how are you?
Yeah.
And people are like, I'm fine, thanks. But it's like, no, how are you? And people are like, what? You know? So I'm making deep connections every single day. And it's been very important for me to know when I'm able to reply or not. And sometimes, and I reply in voice notes. So my energy shows through this, and it makes a difference. People can sense it, because I'm also working with highly intuitive people. So if, for example, I'm having a low vibe day and I've got a conversation going, I do from time to time say, hey, I've opened your message, I've seen you, I see you, but I'm having a day where I'm flowing, I'm feeling soft, and I will get back to you as soon as I have the energy to give you. Or I will reply when I can give my full energy to you. And everybody always replies, super understanding, you know? And I've even had to say to friends before, you know, I can't call today. I really, because it does. Communicating takes so much energy, and we don't understand this. And this is why so many people in office jobs get burnout, or call centers, for example, because all day you're communicating, and then you wonder why you feel like a frazzled piece of bacon, because like you're literally like giving yourself out all the time. And with me, yeah, I have to find those boundaries. Like, I took 4 days off social media completely recently, and just not having to think about that was so healing. And so it just brought me back to myself. And it, even to the point where it took me a day or so to get back into my flow,
Yeah.
because I'd given myself so much energy that I was like, whoa, I don't really even want to approach my phone, you know? And yeah, so definitely protecting it, creating that balance, and knowing when to say no, which is so hard again for empaths, because you don't want to displease anyone, you don't want to let anyone down. But by letting people down respectively and putting yourself forward, you're able to come back with a full tank, instead of trying to give out when you literally have nothing to give.
Mm-hmm. I understanding this on such a deep level. It's unbelievable. It's like you're speaking my brain.
Maybe I am, honey.
So amazing. And the alone time is such a big deal. But I've realized this myself, actually. Especially if you're living with people or you're around people all day, speaking all day. Yeah, it's not
I mean,
easy.
I'm living alone now, and it's been incredible. And it's also kind of, contrasting too, because I'm a people person, and I've been living with people for the past, years, and this time I'm on my own for the next week. And I was experiencing contrast last night. I was like, well, I'm bored. I'm bored. And my friend said to me, this is the only time you've had to feel into this contrast. Like, why are you bored? What can you be doing? There's so much that you can be doing. Why are you bored? Because you want connection, but you're filling a void.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, triggered. Like, really triggered, But she's right. And it's giving yourself that space to recharge so that you can come back stronger each time, because you're learning more things each time as well.
Definitely. And in this alone time as well, you kind of have to find peace with silence and nothingness when no one's there to, like you said, fill that void. And that's like finding peace within yourself, and regardless of your external surroundings, which is just a completely different experience.
Right.
It's a big deal. Okay. So, penultimate question. What would you say to people who would like to start their spiritual journey but don't know where to begin?
I would say, first of all, be very kind to yourself, because it's so easy to see, Instagram and see all these spiritual people. I've even had people message me and say, you're so in tune with your higher self, and you're so, spiritual, and how do I meditate? And most of the questions I get asked is about meditation, and they say, like, how do I start? My mind just goes off. And I said, when I started, I stopped and started about like 10 times.
Yeah.
I would start to meditate. I would get bored and be like, this isn't working. And then I'd try again. And then it got to the point where I actually went and did a 10-day Vipassana, which is a 10-day meditation course. I just went all in. Like, usually you're meditating for years before this, and I was like, sign me up. 10 days of silence, nothing else, just me, myself, and 11 hours of meditation a day. And even after that, I thought I was going to finish that and be this like Buddha empowered, everything's solved in my life. And after that, I didn't meditate for 2 months because I was like, nothing's happened. And I only realized 2 months in that my mind had got a hell of a lot quieter, and I wasn't thinking, and I was so present. But it's such a path. It's a huge path, and it's just dedication to knowing that no one's perfect, and it never will be super easy. You're never going to wake up every single day and not have one external thought or one contrasting thought, or not go into a hole of kind of self-doubt every now and again. I do at least multiple times a week. It's always going to happen. It's just how you choose to deal with it, and that's what you learn on your spiritual path. How do I approach this differently? And a lot of, when you do embark on this spiritual journey, a lot of traumas come up, because you're now more equipped to deal with past experiences that have either caused some kind of trauma in you or some kind of limit in you, and they're coming up to be reviewed and readdressed, and hopefully maybe this time, maybe next time, healed. It's like in relationships, you meet the same person over and over again in a different form, and you experience the same things, and then one day you're like, wait, I'm not going to do it this way anymore. And then that is when you've overcome that block. But it takes time. And I would say one thing that I would definitely recommend is to read the book Untethered Soul, because it really shows you about watching your thoughts and having that two entities of, like, you've got yourself and you've got the inner you that's kind of talking at you, and like you're never really alone, because you've got this like little person inside of your head going, but you should do it this way and you should do it this way. And when you become a watcher of that and know that it's a reflection of all your past experiences, you're able to actually choose and make a choice of whether it's something that's coming from the past or something that's coming and it's present. It's a present experience or a past experience. So just be kind to yourself, see what intuitively feels good. Just because somebody else is meditating every morning and night does not mean you have to be. You got to find your flow and not feel pressured to know everything right away or be a certain way right away, because that's how people give up, because they think that they're going to meditate for 10 minutes and be enlightened. And it's not the case. You never will be. And society and life, like when I did my Vipassana, I felt so at peace with myself for these 10 days where I was not in society. I didn't have my phone. I was completely immersed in meditation. And as soon as I got out of that and I went to Bali, I was back to drinking wine every night and going partying with my mom. And, and that's okay. But I really punished myself for that. But society, everything, day-to-day factors, you could wake up one morning and be skipping down the street feeling high vibe, and then a car could drive past you and splash you and ruin your perfectly beautiful white dress. And anyone is going to be like, God, at that, And it's the way that you choose then to address that. But there's always external factors that are going to change things, and you've just got to be kind to yourself. Super, super kind to yourself.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for this. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we will end with a quote. So is there a quote that you live by or you love it, whatever speaks to you?
Okay, I've got two.
Okay.
I've got two for you. So the first one, which has always been one that stuck with me to the point that I've got it in Portuguese on my arm here, is there is a voice that does not use words, listen. So that's your intuition. Oh! So I read that. I can't remember where I read it, but I remember it just stuck with me. And it was basically, that voice inside your head, like we said with intuition, where it's don't do that, you shouldn't do that. And then you're going to do it anyway. And it's not using words, it's your inner voice. And you've got to listen to it above everything else. So definitely that one. And then in terms of the way I live my life, be creative instead of reactive. So this is all a part of your spiritual journey as well, because a lot of people in society are just very reactive because they're not present and they're not conscious. So as human beings, we react. That is our nature. And for example, you would say to me, I don't like what you did there. And I would go, well, I would react out of ego. And that's reactiveness, not thinking before you've said something. And if you're creative, that's how so many arguments in relationships start, because somebody hears something that triggers their ego and then they attack back with this wave of words. And then they think an hour later, I could have done that differently. Whereas if you actually take even 10 seconds to sit down and think, right, how did that make me feel? How am I feeling like I want to react? But how would be best to react? And I have changed so many situations that could have gone a different way just by doing that, just by taking those 10 seconds. Even if you seem silly, where like you literally take a step back and you're like, I need a minute, and this person's like, freak. Like, I need a minute. But then instead of screaming at someone, you're like, okay, I hear you. I think we should talk about this, or how does that make you feel? Because when you are triggered by something, it's usually not that person. It's usually a reflection of something that's deep within you. Mm-hmm. And then if you react, you're projecting. But if you're creative, you can sit with how that made you feel, you observe it, and then you come back from a place of being present rather than from acting out of your own experiences. So definitely be creative instead of reactive. That's one that I always stick with. It's beautiful.
Okay, so say you had an argument with someone and you thought, I'm not going to react immediately. How would you make it creative? Like, how are you implementing the creativity there?
So let's think of like a topic.
Yeah.
Right, so let's get personal. So one of my exes, for example, calls me up and he says to me, I'm just not feeling it anymore. The spark isn't there. And me knowing that our connection is super, super strong, could have reacted through ego, because that hurts, no matter what, that hurts, because it's like, wait, what? Like, this isn't working for you and there's no spark? Like, what am I doing wrong that there's no spark? And immediately your ego goes, I'm not worthy enough. I can't create a spark.
I've lost it.
I've lost the spark. And all these things. And I could have gone back to him, well, I don't want you anyway. There's no spark with you anyway. Or I could have begged him to be with me and please let's like ignite the spark again, you know. And I took a minute and I said, okay, right, so that makes me feel, you know, unvalued. It makes me feel sad. I'm gutted. But also I know that because you don't feel that way doesn't mean that I don't make other people feel that way. And because you don't want me, in inverted commas, doesn't mean that that takes away from me. And it's taken me years to get to that point where I know that it's not a personal thing, especially with relationships, because it's where a lot of my trauma lies. And I came back just from a place of love. And I said, you know, my heart feels very sore right now. I am heartbroken, but I am releasing this because I cannot and will not chase. I will not try and explain, because by doing so, I'm attaching. And by attaching, it's not going to do anything. And I think that's where a lot of toxic relationships brew, because there's just an influx of back and forth and nothing really gets resolved. And just by taking that moment to think, okay, how did this make me feel? And how would I like to best approach this? And put my ego on the back seat rather than let it speak completely through me, then you actually end up working things out so much more beautifully. And we actually ended up having a friendship.
Wow.
Rather than if I was able to say, right, I hate you, goodbye, slam the phone down, throw the phone at the wall, break the phone, you know, what would that have solved? And instead, I got to keep a friend.
That is incredible. And you've benefited yourself and your own well-being and the other person. So it's a win-win.
Then there's respect, because I valued his opinion and his feelings. There's just mutual respect, because then you're able to then go, and then we went on to a conversation of, well, it didn't work because of this, but these are the good qualities about you that I love and I respect. But if I had have just reacted, there was no chance that he'd have then told me all the beautiful things about me that he loved. I would have just taken away from that situation that I can't create a spark and I'm the worst person in the world. But actually it wasn't that. It's just two souls not aligning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as simple as that, you know?
Just removing the ego and just kind of delving into the truth behind someone's words. But that is definitely a work in progress for most people, because it's so natural and habitual to respond in that sort of.
Yeah, and like reading into things too much too. Like they said this, which means this. But then you hear that they've spoke about you to a friend and they think you're the most respectful woman in the world, you know, and you're like, wait, what? No, I thought he hated me. And it's a story your ego tells itself. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all your answers. You're absolutely incredible and you inspire me every day. So keep doing what you're doing and take care of yourself, and make sure you're listening to that empath side of you too, because
I will. You too,
that's
honey.
the most important thing. But bye for now, and I'm sure we're going to speak really soon.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye. Sorry, I'm going to stop recording.